Hello everyone, I'm Professor Huntington, and today we're going to talk about conversions within the metric system. What is this system? Most countries of the world use the metric system. In French, it's, let's see if I could get this, Système International des Unités. And it came from the Greek word metron, meaning to measure, and it was first developed in France during the French Revolution. In the United States, we use the metric system, but we also use other forms of measurement. And so we can call that the U.S. customary system, or sometimes we say imperial system. So what are the advantages of using the metric system? As I mentioned just before, that it is used worldwide. Second, in the metric system, there really is only one basic unit of measurement for each physical quantity. For example, in the United States, when we're discussing length, we can measure that in inches, feet, yards, and miles, and so on. And then converting is pretty challenging at times. But in the metric system, many conversions can be made by simply moving the decimal point. And to measure length, we're going to use meters. But we could do kilometers or centimeters and so on. So you'll see how that works. And third, because the SI system is based on the number 10, there's going to be less need for fractions because most of the quantities can be expressed as decimals. And so here you can see in the imperial system, about 1 inch is about 2.5 centimeters. Something else to know with international numbers is that in other countries, comma is often used in place of the decimal point. So for example, this number written in the United States, like that 12,345 and 6/10 would be written in this form in other countries. And so what are these basic terms in the metric system? When we want to measure length, we're going to use meters. And 1 meter is a little more than a yard. So an example is a door is about 2 meters high. To measure weight and mass, we're going to use grams, but it's going to be, when we would use pounds, we're going to use the kilogram. For example, a newborn baby may have a mass of about 3 kilograms. But in general, when we're measuring mass and weight, we're going to use grams. So you can have kilograms, you can have milligrams, you can have centigrams, and so on. And so a nickel has a mass of about 5 grams. When we're trying to measure volume, and that's going to be liquid volume, a liter is a little more than a quart, and so we're measuring the volume in liters. It could be kiloliters, it could be milliliters, or it could just be liters. For temperature, the metric system uses Kelvin temperature scale. But most sciences use Celsius, which is derived from the Kelvin scale. Kelvin has absolute 0. Let's see. So the freezing point of water is 0, and the boiling point of water is 100. So here are some common conversions from Celsius into what we commonly use in the United States, which is Fahrenheit. So 0 degrees Celsius is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. This is when water freezes. So 23 degrees Celsius is about 73 degrees in Fahrenheit, and that is about the comfortable temperature in a room. 37 degrees Celsius is equal to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the average body temperature. And then 100 degrees Celsius is equal to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the temperature at which water boils. So here are some of the prefixes used in the metric system. We've got kilo, hecto, deca, And then when you're at the base unit, you don't have a prefix. For the smaller ones, we have deci, centi, and milli. So here are some of the very large and very small quantities that are used in the world. But we're going to mostly be working in these dimensions. The millimeter here is the smallest unit on this table, and the kilometer is going to be the largest. So how do we do these conversions? Since we're just multiplying or dividing by a power of 10, the reason the metric system is so much easier to use is because with that, you're just going to be moving the decimal left or right. So to change from a smaller unit to a larger unit, you're going to move the decimal point from the original quantity one place to the left for each larger unit of measurement. And then to change from a larger unit to a smaller, you're going to move the decimal point in the original quantity one place to the right for each smaller unit of measurement. So I'll show you how this works. And it helps to use a mnemonic to help you remember the order. Here's one. King Henry died unusually drinking chocolate milk. Okay, by remembering a mnemonic like this, it'll help you remember that it's K, H, D, and U for unit, and then D, and the smaller one is going to be deci, and then C and M. So, for example, let's convert 457.3 meters to kilometers. So we're at the meters, and we want to go to kilometers. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 to the left. So what we're going to do here is take this decimal and go 1, 2, 3 to the left. So the same. And so our answer will be 0.4573 kilometers. Okay, let's check out converting grams to centigrams. So similarly, if we are at grams and we want to go to centigrams, we're going to go 1, 2 to the right. So we're going to take the decimal, which we don't see, but 14 means that the decimal is just to the right of the ones. So that's here. So then we go 1, 2 to the right. And since we're moving the decimal there, we have to put zeros in as a placeholder. So our solution will be 1,400 centigrams, or 1,400 centigrams. Okay, and here's some more examples that you can try. Okay, so you can pause the video and try them. So as a wrap-up, let's think about it. What clues help you know whether to divide or multiply in metric conversions? And if you just use the chart and you figure out if you have to go to the left or the right, that might help you even more. I also encourage you to Google mnemonics to remember metric conversions to see if you prefer a different one. The one that I learned when I was young was King Henry's drunken uncle drinks chocolate milk. And I guess I had this funny image of somebody's uncle who has like a flask on the inside of his coat pocket because he's spiking his chocolate milk. So having that funny memory will also help for this mnemonic to stick. And I challenge you to see if you can remember the mnemonic yourself. So set a timer on your smartphone or watch for 10 minutes and see if you can still remember the King Henry's drunken uncle drinks chocolate milk or whatever you want in 10 minutes. Have a great day.